between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Loan you that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful friends. I am excited tonight to talk to a fan of Rogue who reached out and suggested we do a show together. He's got some unique and exciting insights and research into various topics. This dude has one of the most open minds I've seen yet, and perspectives we don't see as often in younger ages. He's an activist that infuses spirit into the conversation, and he's soon to be refreshing your mind with a golden perspective, lifting you up with a quick mind, and throwing it down like a rogue ninja. Everybody welcome Kordeezy Tom. Kordeezy, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Hey, peace, family. Thank you, Lindsay, for having me.
It's
Appreciate
excellent.
it.
It's excellent to have you here, and I'm excited to see what we get into. I think we're going to go all over the place tonight. But before we get started, I like to remind people to go to rogueways.org, check out more content from me, and if you have found value in Rogue Ways, it would be excellent if you could subscribe at subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. At the dollar level per month or higher, you get various perks for different levels, and that is my favorite way of being supported by you. For the value I offer you, I love to see that value coming back. So if you've been on the fence, please go subscribe today at the dollar level. At least I would love your support, and thank you so much for all you do. Hopefully I can keep doing what I do. And so Kordeezy, we often start with the pointless question of the episode, and I was up in the mountains today and I really wanted to jump off this cliff into the water, but the water was a little too cold and a little too shallow, and I didn't quite trust it. But I wanted to know if you are into cliff jumping or anything like that.
Well, I've been to the quarries a few times, and I have to say that I am that person that is initially afraid to jump off that cliff, but I have to get pushed if
like
I am.
Literally, someone pushes you?
Well, more so just convinced.
Mentally, okay. You need the people counting down from the shore, like, for you to go?
Like, yeah, like, no, like, I'm like, come on, bro, there's nothing wrong with it, bro. I'm just like, no, dude, like, this doesn't even look safe at all.
Yeah, like, people aren't supposed to jump off things.
Right, but so I just put that scary fear to the side, and really just dive in. And that's when things get real, and that's when you really break through that veil, I feel like.
Yeah.
In all ways.
I think it's that same exact momentum, that same exact process that gets us like to jump off the cliff into the water as gets us to like try a new thing or go outside our little box, no matter what the sphere is. It's like the same, like people get nervous coming on the show and like have a little bit of adrenaline. It's that same sort of thing. But if you just like do it once you start, you're like, oh, that wasn't actually that bad. Like, this is pretty cool. And I saw this girl standing up there. You have to climb, you have to like hike up and go around. It's kind of scary to even get to the point where you can jump. And she stood up there for like an hour, and she would come out every once in a while and everybody would be like, yeah, you could do it. And she'd like shake her hands and be like, ah, and then she'd back up and go away. And I was like, man, I think by like the 6th time you've done that, now you have this like pattern in your brain established. And I think it's going to get harder and harder and harder to jump. And I don't know if she ever made it because we left.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That belief gets solidified, and that's what it really boils down to, is like your comfort zone, and you don't ever get out of your comfort zone without others, outside perspectives and outside reality and people suggesting things. So I feel like it's important to kind of get out of your element and get out and encourage people to, get out of their comfort zone if you could, because we've been conditioned and we've been put into a box, and, figuratively and literally right now for the last 2 months, and out of fear. And it's just like, there's things that we could be doing, and that's what we're doing here, at Rogue Ways. So I appreciate that little inner question.
It's a good analogy to what we're doing. I love it. I do. And lately I've been really focusing on it more, that idea of getting out and going beyond your comfort zone, or talking to people you wouldn't otherwise talk to, especially when it comes to these divisions they're pushing. Because I think if you buy the like, these types of people are racist and these types of people aren't, for example, or like these types of people are science deniers and these types of people aren't, or whatever the label is, whatever the judgment is. If you just judge and you just never talk to those people, how would you ever even know? But that's a lot of what I see going on, at least. And I'm like, how about you just talk to them and see why they're doing this, or if they are racist, or if they are science deniers, or if they are whatever other label you're putting on people.
Right. And that's what kind of drove me to kind of make my Facebook page, Kordeezy Tom. It just kind of like I gained like all this different type of knowledge. And then, normally, I'm kind of an introvert. Like I don't really talk to people, but like on the internet, okay, I can talk to, people how many times I want. So I get into these groups and I start chatting about flat earth. That's when you first get into those debates and you first get beat up. And
Yeah.
but it's like kind of like an intellectual sparring. You kind of get like beat up, but you get back up and you learn the dialogue, you learn the arguments that everybody says, and then it's just like, damn, I pretty much everybody's saying the same things, but you're more comfortable now, and you know what you're saying now, and you gain that confidence.
Yeah. It's nice too when you are presented with these ideas you've never, necessarily heard or thought about. If you can be the type of person who is curious enough to pursue, like, wow, what if I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about? Like, maybe I could be like, what the fuck is going on? Because I do
Right.
it. I'm like, especially with flat Earth when it first came up, I was like, pfft. Even with all the crazy conspiracies I have entertained, I was like, fuck that
Mhm.
one. That's so stupid. And then I started looking at it, I was like, I have to just like, why are they even saying this? And I look into it, I'm like, oh shit, like I don't know what the fuck is going on anymore. Like, what is
Right.
it? you know?
I swear, and it's like that, and it's like you want other people to experience that too with you, because it's like, that mind-blowing feeling is kind of like it gets your adrenaline pumping, it kind of gets you ready for more, and you
Right.
kind of want other people to wake up around you, because honestly, seeing other people doing those, not thinking like you, it kind of makes you feel like you're segmented, and you feel like you're weird. But once you start connecting with people and you start really connecting the dots and going further, then that's kind of the thing that I banked on, because like normally on your Facebook, you got all your friends that are normies and they don't believe what you're saying, but I got a whole bunch of people that's agreeing with me. So now when they're reading the comments, they're like, well, wait, these people are agreeing with it. Wait, well, this does make sense, and this does make sense. So it's a whole for the silent peepers, right? Because
Yeah,
there's always people watching, and they
it's
don't want to
true.
comment, or they don't want to like, and they want to be on the fence. But I social engineer them too, because it's like you gotta see those comments, and you gotta see that dialogue, and it's by law of the numbers, right? You gotta have more people that are in the same bubble and audience as you, and you can really convince the collective that you're trying to convince, basically.
If they will even entertain it, because a lot of times I just like come into some conversation and there's like 20 people jump on attacking me, and
Mm,
even if I'm making like really good points and not being aggressive and being calm despite being attacked, like still like people just won't respond often to anything I say, and I'm like, how are you expecting this to be a conversation if we're not actually responding to each other? If you just want to pile on
mhm.
your like gotcha moments and you're like, oh yeah, I told her, like that
Right, right.
ego shit, like how are we ever going to actually discuss anything? But I think we were talking about this a little before we started too, the difference between like a sort of debate and the difference between like that and like a conversation where you're just like both sides are coming to be like, I don't know, here's where I'm at, where are you at? Oh cool, okay, well like we're both curious and we're both open. That's a
Hmm.
conversation, I think. And but when you're like trying to score points, trying to like push something, I feel like it gets weird and not helpful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's become more of a game now, and it doesn't help that the media kind of programs people to have their automatic response,
Yeah.
automatic responses like you're an idiot, oh you're dumb if you believe in that, and even with everything that we've been grown up to believe, even with things like religion, and it's like those type of ideas start young, but
Yeah.
there comes a time where we got to be adults in a room, you know what I mean, and that's it. That's the
It's
bottom
hard.
line. Like, are we going to be infantiles, or are we going to, be adults? But
Yes.
I did want to share this link though,
Yeah.
real quick. But I feel like totally like the infantile mindset, we've been socially engineered to be like that for a while now, and it just is showing right now. Like
Totally. It's actually
we're at the
interesting.
epitome of it.
That's sort of the like trend that I've been on lately. I'm like, wow, we're very like we're small children and we're just arguing. We're very immature about it. Like no one's making progress. No one has an eye out for, unity or I mean, you don't want to unite with shit that's like completely opposite with you or is evil or whatever, but you want to I think we should aim to like push more unity rather than more division, right? But if you're a child about it, then you're really happy in your division and you're like righteous indignation and your sureness that you're right and all of these things and it's like a theme lately and I think Freeman Fly called it when he said, wow, we're really in the age of the crowned and conquering child like Aleister Crowley had said we would be. And I'm like, holy shit, we are.
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
It's
Like
absolutely.
even, we can segue kind of into like, the black community. Like there's things that, we argue about that's really like, why are we arguing about this? Like, like the color black. Like I know that there was a guest that you had on earlier, and it's like I agree with that. Like I don't see myself as black. I mean, I understand the cultural. See, this is a whole deep thing, and
Yeah.
people always this is a deep, thing, and I always get into it with people, and people say that I'm spreading self hate,
Hmm.
but there's many different ways that we can go at it. I mean, you can look at your arm and see that you're not black. You see that you're a different shade of brown.
And I'm not
You know,
white, even though the light makes it look like it. I'm like peachy pink orange. I don't even know. It's not white, but anyway, keep going. Yeah, because I want to understand your black versus brown thing.
yeah, exactly. And then we can look at the word black, which would mean pale or blank, or you can look up in Webster's dictionary,
Black means
blanco, black.
pa- pale or blank.
There's in older, see what it was with Crayola crayons when they came out,
Yeah.
they with these color crayons, they kind of made the word black symbol show black, but in reality and in older text, in older dictionaries, because they've been edited,
Yeah.
there's black means pale, and
Like
um
Blanco.
yeah, like
Okay.
blanco,
Weird.
and even with like bleached without color, like
Weird.
there's a whole etymology tied there. But also just even in law, I mean there's statuses in law, and black is one of the slave codes, like slave
Really?
statuses in law. Yeah, you can
Wow.
look it up. And no, this is all coming from Moorish science and the Moorish studies and the Black's Law Dictionary, fourth edition. And um I believe it's the Christian black codes that kind of get into these things, but we also can look at like I'm from Minneapolis, so when I'm looking at a lot of these, we get a lot of immigrants, and a lot of these Somalians are coming from over and immigrating here, and they have nice cars and they have good credit and they have all these different types of things. Well, what it is because their status is white, and when you get into legality and legalese and things like this, status isn't about your skin color. It's white status is good and black status means slave or dead in law. So when we sit here and classify ourselves as black, like on paper or in legal contracts, or just as when we get booked in for going to jail and things like that,
Yeah.
police have even been getting off for killing black people just because the status of black, the legal status of being black is a slave.
Is this
So
are you saying it's being argued in court by lawyers or prosecutors or whoever that that's the
people
case and they should get off or are you saying it's one of those aspects that are almost like the when we talk to Cal Washington, for example, there's like this sort of almost spiritual, like, hierarchy and things going on in law that are sort of like behind the scenes and that you don't even, they're not even expressly like brought forth in the trial or examination or whatever. Is it one of those things or is it being
I'm familiar with Kirk. I'm familiar with Kirk. It's not too esoteric like that,
okay?
but what it is, it's simply just a legal status as far as good or bad. Just
Wow.
as far as Dred Scott case. I want people can research the Dred Scott case, which would show more about how black has no standing in law and black is a
Wow.
this goes into like the I think it's the 13th or 14th Amendment, like where black people are just three-fifths of a man and these type like those type of ideas. Well, um, so that's just my whole spiel about black, and I wish I came with more notes and more credible points to help solidify that. But there's just groups like Black Lives Matter, and there's groups that
Yeah.
push down the word black. And I always had a problem with that because I never really understood why that was. And I always kind of like when we get the story of slavery, our name has been switched up so many times. You know what I mean? Like we went from like we don't like black people don't know who we are. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We may think we're from Africa. Some think that we already were here. I'm one of those people. I I believe that we were already here. I don't believe in the transatlantic slave trade. I don't believe that we came here 16 million Africans on sailboats.
Wow.
I believe that they enslaved the people that were already here,
Wow.
and that there's actually research on that I got to look up and brush up on. But I wanted to speak on that a little bit too,
Yeah.
because our names and our history has been changed so much that we don't know who we are. We even calling ourselves African American now. I just read on the news that the DACA just got, I think it was repealed, the Dream Act or something like
Was
that.
it?
That Yeah, it was something that it has something to do with immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
but there was some fine print in there that kind of alluded to like African Americans were could get deported as well,
What the
and
fuck?
it's really crazy, and people can look up the research from Dane Calloway on that. It's like
Wow.
we you classify yourself as African American, but nobody knows their country of origin, or no country has come forth and said, yeah, all of Africans are from here and we want our people back, and we don't see celebrities going back to Africa after they get all of their money. And I can even go as far as to point out, like in school, like there was this programming called Roots, which was a African
That
American
movie?
slave. Yeah, the movie
Yeah.
Roots.
With Kunta
They
Kinte?
show Yeah, with Kuta Kinte,
Kunta
right?
Kinte with the
So we all
Mactin.
so we're like, okay, why do black people look so different than Africans, right? Like why, like you would think that, if they're African, they will look more African. Like black people, you can tell an African from a black person,
Just
right?
like facial morphology and like tone or something, or
Yeah, like the
yeah.
facial features and like the accent, of course, will be gone by the time they come, but there's like the skin color
Yeah.
more predominantly because black group or African people are kind of more darker.
Yeah.
And in the movie Roots, I remember Kuta Kinte was lighter, and like during the whole African scene, like when he was coming, like being taken from Africa, and like when he was up for sale for the first time, when he first quote unquote got to America, there was Africans. They showed that there was Africans buying slaves because, of course, there was Africans in the slave trade too.
Yeah.
But they showed Africans there, and they showed that they were already different at that point,
Yeah.
which showed kind of like they were not like the difference that we see in black people from African people was already at that moment,
Yeah.
and it has not been genetically gone from the 1700s or whenever the first transatlantic slave trade happened.
Right.
So my point being is like I makes more sense that they enslaved the people that were here first, and we being here first, um we are like the Indians
Yeah.
versus the Indians that we would see today in the reservations today.
So this is fascinating. So then, like, perhaps because I know there's this idea if we had the map in front of us, we could see Native Americans possibly coming up from Asia over the land bridge and over down, like over and over time, it's like Eskimos and like a lot of Native Americans have a lot more connection with Asia perhaps than anywhere else. But then maybe people way back whenever did the same sort of thing, but from Africa and like came across and like maybe that was more in that sort of southern or eastern sort of range of the United States, which is where all the white people came, first, supposedly, or whatever actually happened. But is that what your
Yeah.
sort of conception is, that whatever time
Yeah.
people traveled over from Africa, but it was much, much longer ago than we think, and then they were already here?
Yeah, sort of, so to speak. I'm not sure how the migration
Right. Like,
happened, but the story goes that black people are indigenous to all the land, like everywhere on the land.
yeah,
So
well,
supposedly,
right.
yeah, like supposedly. So with that being said, it's like it doesn't make sense that they would bring them over when they were already there, and
Right.
them being already there, they would have. So there's treaties. Like there's a treaty of Morocco. Like Morocco was the first country that recognized the United States as a nation.
What?
And yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
even know
it's
that.
yeah. Look it up. There's a treaty that it's called the Treaty of Good Faith, or this treaty of something. The treaty between Morocco and United States, and you'll find that in the late 1700s, Morocco was the first nation to recognize the United States. But what you would also know that the city of Morocco, like this country of Morocco, wasn't a country until the mid 1900s, like the
Huh.
Morocco that we know of today.
Yeah, it
And
says,
this brings,
you can't see it, but everyone else can see. I just pulled it up on Wikipedia, and it says the Moroccan American Treaty of Friendship. You called it in December 1777. We got that 777 there. That's interesting. The Moroccan Sultan Mohammed III included the United States in a list of countries to which Morocco's ports were open. Now I want to just quickly see, when did Morocco become a country? That's fascinating. And isn't
yeah,
Morocco? No, that's Libya. Right now, there's like an active slave trade in Libya.
yeah, I think it's Libya. Not too familiar.
Well, let's see. I'll try to see what the year was. But sorry, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and this is something that I'm researching now too, so I can like kind of tie a lot of things together because um it's a crazy thing, and we see like the president, like Obama was talking in front of a Moroccan flag, and
Really?
it's one of the like the longest treaties, like in some speeches. I can't recall which ones,
Right.
but he's had some in front of Moroccan flags, and the Moors, which is like the black. There's like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Moors, but there's like a lot of them here, and they've actually they've said to have nations within the United States, like the
Huh.
continental United States. So there's people that when they withdraw from the United States, there's Moorish nations that people um, attribute themselves to and have their sovereignty. But I can't attest to all of that. That's kind of on the flip side.
It'd be kind
But
of
I just
like.
wanted to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it'd be kind of like the Native American. Technically every reservation is its own nation inside of the United
Yeah,
States. So it'd be kind of similar to that.
yeah, and that's exactly the point because have you heard of the term $5 Indian?
I don't think I have. If I have, I forgot.
Well, well, it's interesting because the term $5 Indian was brought about because of like it was like in 1893, the Dow's Commission, they had some type of thing like tribal enrollment where they were enrolling I guess they were like enrolling people in the tribes, like the five civilized tribes of America. And what it was they were having people sign up that weren't even Indian, and they were like for $5
I have heard of
and
this.
getting all yeah, and getting all type of benefits. So this is really deep when you tie all of this stuff together. One, black people already being here. Two, $5 Indians. And then three, now black people want reparations. Well, reparations were given to Indians for their land being taken,
Yeah.
and their land has been taken again in 1893 when the Dow's Commission and like made these chiefs like with they're not even real Indians. They were
Yeah.
like there were some white people, there was some other people,
They're
and
just like,
maybe some black people
you
too.
want to be
But
a chief? All right, there you go.
it no, it's crazy. It's a whole thing, you know. So this gets into like, you know, you calling yourself African American, you're removing yourself from all of that. You know, you calling yourself black, okay, now you're dead in law, you're slave status,
Wow.
because there's statuses, and you know, so it's kind of it's kind of counterproductive. You know, we got Black Lives Matter now, and it's like, damn, well, we wanna, you know, you're fighting for legal rights, but you're saying black,
Yeah.
and black has no standing in law, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
It pisses me off, and it's not self hate that I'm spreading this type
No.
of information, and if it's not coming off, um, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous for being on your show, but if
Yeah,
it's not
I
coming off
understand.
correctly, just please, people just research the things that I've said, and it'll really like blow your mind.
No, I think it's really sad that you even have to say like that you're not spreading self-hatred, or you know what I mean? Like I think this is exactly what we were talking about before, where it's like why can't people just calm down and listen to you? And if they like end up at the end of listening to you going, "No, I don't really care about any of that," and go their own way, like cool. But if they do, like maybe you'll learn something, and then maybe you go research something, and maybe it'll like change your mind. Maybe it'll be better than where you were before. But why would you just react out of emotion and be like, "Fuck him, he's a self hater. He's like an Uncle Tom or whatever"? Like, what? Why?
It's
Why can't you just listen? You clearly are not coming from a place of hate. I think it's pretty obvious.
man, yes,
But
thank you. It's really crazy.
and it's also like I don't know, we get so attached to words, you know? So if someone came to me tomorrow and they were like, dude, you calling yourself, not that I don't even really call myself white, but I'm trying to think of something I do call myself. Woman, let's say woman. You call yourself a woman, like that word means this and it's actually fucked up. You're kind of like oppressing yourself and maybe you want to look into it and think about it. I'd be like, oh, really? What? And I'd go look into it. And maybe that'd be wrong and
Right.
maybe it'd be right, but I wouldn't be like, fuck you, I'm a woman. Like I'm not that attached to it, you know? But I don't know why
Right.
we just like we get really attached to these labels and these words, and I don't know, we get all this emotion infused with it, but it is like it's programming, right? We've been programmed like if you're black and you're identifying with the word black so much that you can't even consider whether or not there might be a better word to call yourself, it has to come from programming at some level, right?
Yeah.
Why are you so attached to it? Like, I don't know.
Hmm. No, absolutely. And like when you just said that, I was just thinking like, what if Kurt Kallenbach came up to you and said you're deformed? Would you be mad about that? Like,
Yeah.
no, he's gonna come and drop some facts on you and let you know that you need to get them other parts of your body.
Yeah.
No, and
Reinstate
you know,
yourself. Or maybe
yeah.
de-instate yourself.
Man.
It is
No, the
interesting
black.
though. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I was looking for
Well,
something.
like African American, black, like all these words we have, it's the same, you know, I just have this conversation with people, younger people all the time because, you know, I've been a teacher and kids don't know what the fuck. Like they're just trying their best to figure it all out, you know? So I'll be like teaching about something and I'll say black and they'll be like, wait, you're not supposed to say black people. That's racist. And I'll be like, well, I don't think it's racist. There's, you know, black people I know who are my friends who call themselves black. So I think I'm allowed to call people black. And they're like, you're supposed to say African American. I'm like, well, there's other, you know, black people I know who want me to say African American and not black. But like, you just have to like figure out like the person you're talking to and how they want to talk about it. But if someone's
Mhm.
gonna like freak out at you about a word you use, then that person's got problems, not you. You know, unless you're acting in hatred, then you have a problem. But
Yeah, and that's a crazy, crazy, crazy point, because we can go down a whole nother rabbit hole with just like that, you know. Okay, black people, you just said a black person getting mad that a white person called them black, but a white person will get mad at a black person saying nigga, or excuse my French.
you can say whatever you want.
But but what that is, it's deep. It's really deep, because there's like a little line of research that was going down, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know if you ever heard of like, okay, the first samurais were black, you know, this whole little thing.
I've never heard of it,
Well, if you,
but I love it.
well, there's this, yeah, it's real cool. It's real interesting. And what I looked at was okay, the N word being used as a term of endearment, because when I use it. Okay, when I'm talking to my people, I'm not using it in a derogatory term. You know, I'm
Yeah, you're not
using
trying to
it
put anyone
usually,
down. You're just
yeah, I'm usually using it in terms of endearment. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say it like that, nigga. But when, you know, okay, when white people said it, they put a gur at the end, nigger, and said it angrily or whatever. But where I want to go with it, you know, where I want to go with it is like the word nigga was connected to Naga, which was like
Ah,
something involved with like a serpent goddess or something like that.
yeah.
And there's something deep with in Japan, what I just told you about the first black samurai, one of the places in Japan is Nagasaki,
Ah,
Naga. So it's so these terms and these words that we use and we're so confused and just like infused with stress. It's just like there's when you break them down and you get to understanding it, things get kind of um you kind of see more,
yeah.
you know, and there's more places I think with the word Naga in it, but
Yeah.
it's a whole crazy line of research that I went down.
Well, and that's a power. That's like a power symbol, you know. The and so okay, in Asian cultures, not all of them, I'm sure, but at least Japan, maybe China too. Black is actually the good color. You know how like white here is like pure angelic, like our Western culture
Yeah,
like loves white and that's the good color or whatever, and then dark people are always bad, evil, whatever.
yeah.
It's kind of the opposite. It's like the all the good guys are wearing black and all the bad guys are wearing white, and so that's even
Mm.
more interesting that if Naga is connected to the color black and black over there is good, and snakes, you know, are this power like Kundalini awakening, you know,
Mhm.
connection with sort of our most sacred roots, then training people out of associating positively with that word is a pretty good trick.
Hey, that's it's a really good trick.
Wow.
Like grr, put grr at the
Yeah.
put grr at the end. Don't
Wow.
say it. Like it offends me if you call him it. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole crazy programming, and it's real. It got real deep, you know. And it's like, damn, I'm not spreading self hate, and it's
No.
like you spit. It is just crazy because it's like it gets deeper, you know. You when you break free of that program and it just always gets deeper, you feel relieved, you know, and you want to spread that message.
Yeah.
And like this year has been like one of the greatest years, you know. I've been in like I got a totally great new job. I've been doing
Woo.
like awesome shows like this and you know, family coming together, whatever. But the world is also going downhill. So there's like a law of duality and polarity with that, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like you could be swinging low, but there's also that possibility that you could be at the highest moment as well as that very lowest moment.
Yes.
And that's what I see in this awakening right now, you know what I mean? It may seem that the world's going to shit, you know, if you turn on the media, but man, it's a whole like power shift right now that's really massive and great.
Dude, it's so interesting because, you know, we're talking about black and white. We're talking about, you just bring up this like sort of duality and polarity. And the show I just did, I don't know, 2 shows ago maybe, it was totally a random, unplanned show. I was just like, I don't know, I'm going to read this poem. I'm going to do like, I'm just going to do a God shot, I guess, out of this book I have on symbols, you know, where you just open it randomly and see what comes up. Drew a tarot card, and the way it all connected together was all about this. It was like over and over again throughout the show, just on random accident. It was all about duality and polarity, and
Mm-hmm.
how the two opposing ends of the poles are sort of like stretch to the point where they like get so divided and so opposite, and then they like snap back together. And that moment is like so powerful for all of creation. But then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, fuck, these guys are the ones pushing this duality and polarity, and like maybe they hope to like snap things and then control that ultimate energy that sort of comes out of that. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Control the momentum.
Which is
That's why I'm like, no,
not what
don't
I
act
want.
off their moves. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't act off their moves. Like they want you to rile up and buy all this and be anxious. Like don't. Now is not the time to revolt. As much as it you may think that it is, you know, because they're working anxiously. It seems like shit is getting sloppy
Yeah.
with these false flags. You know, this last shit, George Floyd that happened in my city. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? First thing I did, what did I do? I looked at the fucking date.
Yeah.
What was it? We're entering Gemini. Well, this is happening in the Twin Cities. Like, come on
Gemini
now.
is the duality,
Like,
right?
yeah, it's all there. And black people got mad at me about that. And it happened right outside my office. Like
Wow.
it's really crazy that
You're like right
things
in the
like this.
epicenter of it. I didn't realize that.
No, seriously, you look up the I'm I'm on Saytool. I work for Saytool on the board. But if you guys look up Saytool, you'll see that it's on 37th in Chicago.
Wow.
George Floyd happened on 38th in Chicago.
Wow.
It's right there. But
You're placed
no,
there
it's
for a reason.
for a reason. It's crazy. And these people, and you know, shout out to my organization.
Yeah,
And
it sounds like a good
but a
one.
lot of them are mad. You know, a lot of them are mad at me for not expressing some type of sentiment and expressing my disdain for these past two false flags that I would, would say, and
What's the second one?
damn it, it's just uh first one was COVID,
Oh,
and this
okay, right. Gotcha.
and they're all wear your mask this, do you need protection, that, and you see me on Facebook. I'm not I'm germ theory, research germ theory.
Yeah.
What is this? And I'm just not with it at all. So it's like, okay, I'm torn
Yeah.
between, you know what I mean, knowing what I know and doing what I do, which is
Yeah.
what we find as being activists all the time. But at the same time, like I've built so many connections and strengths with so many people interlaced with the city that that's why I'm still with it and still sticking it through, and you know what I mean, still remaining hopeful because the fight is a fight, at the end of the day or whatever. But
Yeah. I love that you're pushing through all that because I think that must be really really hard to be at the middle, literally at the epicenter of the second false flag, and then also working with this organization that's got to be a lot of people who are feeling, I mean, rightfully emotional about history of things, that have not necessarily been addressed, and a history of oppressions that are still continuing, because you're working with a lot of people in poverty and of various different ethnic backgrounds, right?
yeah,
So
yep, it's
so
Hispanic and Black organ.
a lot of shit coming together, and then this is sort of like this like powder keg that was lit, and gave everybody sort of this open, I don't know, open season on airing emotional traumas maybe, or like, and so it's like all
Yeah,
coming out, and if you're standing in any way not flowing along with that, I'm sure you're getting a lot of shit.
trampled here,
That
trampled.
sucks.
If I wasn't down with burning down the city and shit, I was a D. I wasn't ready. I was weak. I was this. I was that. Like it was. You fight so much when you come with truth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And patience is what it is as well as patience. And when you have that patience and you have like the code that you see, like the 7 laws of nature or whatever, that you can see like the pattern that these people play by and how things go. Patience is so crucial, and people act in such an anxious way. But the sad thing is, it's like the collective, and it's like, damn, I have no choice but to care. But it's like, you still got to have patience for yourself, for your internal time, and it's, you can worry about the collective all you want, but make sure you're at peace with your individual self as well.
Okay, well said. Yeah, you definitely need that to go to go bring that to anybody else. You have to have that going on with yourself too. And I fail, sometimes, and I
Yeah,
find
but
myself being a child sometimes too. Like we were talking about, like hopefully I'm not the crowned and conquering child at least, but I do find myself being somewhat childish at times because I get sick of being trampled and attacked just for saying like, hey, what about this thing over there? What about that idea,
right.
maybe? And people are like, fuck you, you white fucking supremacist. I'm like, Jesus Christ, okay, never mind. Back
Shit
off,
crazy.
move away, I guess. Like, and then I can like lash out too, and I'm like, that's not helping anything. And it is like, you gotta like shore up your own shit before you can go trying to offer it to others because they are gonna come with a lot of resistance. And but it is nice when every once in a while, like someone is like, oh really? I didn't know that. Or like, I'm gonna think about that. Or I'm gonna research it. Like, geez, thank you, God. One
Yeah,
person every once in a while is enough to like keep sort of trying. Because other times I'm just like, I don't know why I even talk to anybody. I should just, you know, talk to my
just
people
stop.
who I already know agree. But then we get back to that place where you're like, you're not going outside of yourself and
Hmm.
trying to
Yep, it's an
connect.
echo
So
chamber.
yeah, you don't want that either. It's a rough
That's
battle.
No, and that's the importance of having, interracial people on. You know what I mean? Because we can have a Spanish person on and start talking about some Mayan stuff, like really in depthly, like we more than we would ever could. And those type of conversations go further with
Yeah.
the foundations that we've already built through our conversations that we've had in the past. So these type of like just how I just offered just some like black conspiracies, and that type of thing will lead you guys further in different type of things, and you guys can like everybody has a piece to offer, and it's so
Yeah.
beautiful that people can connect in such ways. And I just appreciate like just connecting with you, Lindsay, because like, man, as soon as I woke up to this like conscious community, like I just immediately just started reaching out, and like you were so welcoming. You
Oh,
were
thank
like
you.
like just like, oh hey, this and that. And like you don't get that with people, like with like celebrities and people that you look up to coming from the entertainment industry, looking up to idols. But when you look up to people that you work, like that you listen to like on your headphones all day and things like that, it's like crazy. Like I talk with Jason and the great Baldini sometimes from the Crow Show, and it's
Yeah.
like, man, it's crazy that I'm reaching out to these freaking smart ass individuals. Like it's real cool, and it's love because we're like, love is so more attainable than fake stuff
Yeah.
and fake shit. Like like celebrities and entertainers, like I just go so hard on them because I don't want people to think about them no more. Like, but you can touch love, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's what we're doing here.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that that was part of the process, and I it's something that I really try to focus on and push, also is that you have to stay human and you have to stay connected with other people because that's the base of this, and we're like building a literal network of love, where we're connecting with each other, and it doesn't mean that we all have to think the same or act the same or do the same or whatever, but you can't abandon that because then what are you becoming, right? You have to be a human and stay human, but I know the feeling because I know the first time I was connecting with people that I was like, "Holy shit, this person's going to come on my show and talk to me like what the fuck?" Like freaking
Yeah,
out,
dude,
But
for real.
it's cool. It's like, one of these people lately who has called me a white supremacist who I really respect and I love her. I love her. She has a beautiful soul, and I'm like, this is one of the things that I think we originally connected on is that we saw each other as humans and individuals and treated each other as equals, right? And for
Yeah,
years we've been running on that foundation, and that foundation can stretch so far. And I have high hopes that it'll bring us through this current spat too. But if you don't have that idea of no matter what age, no matter what color, no matter what sexuality or gender, or any of these things that are supposed to be divisions, we're still on the same page. We're still all just people. We're still all like heading hopefully the same direction. Then that can kind of keep us through anything. But
absolutely.
let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's touch on. You brought up the seven laws, and I want to talk about Hermeticism with you because I want to know how you got into it and kind of what your ideas are about it. So, if you want to spin us down that path in some way.
Okay, cool. Well, it's interesting. I was first introduced. I kind of like I read a book. I always cite this book because it was such a lovely book. It's called The Tao of Pooh,
Oh
which
yeah,
was basic. Yeah, you've heard
I've
of it.
heard of it, but I haven't read it. But I know, yeah, or maybe I did read it. God, I don't know. Keep going.
This this such a like this like just like an introduction to spirituality. It's such a beautiful book. Like it was Taoism expressed in the form of Winnie the Pooh, and it kind of was like so subtle and sweet, and it kind of like because I was going through such a low point, and then I was eager for more information, and I don't know how, like how Facebook reads your mind and shit like that.
Yeah.
Well, like an article must have came up with like how to 7 ways to how to manifest or something like that, and I read like an article, and then it had like the 7 spiritual laws in it,
Wow.
which were like it was a generic version of them because it wasn't like the how the Hermeticism wrote it,
Yeah.
but it was like seven off-brand laws, but they kind of were this like the
They're
same
basically
thing,
the
like
same. Yeah.
yeah, cause and effect and this and that, which were the same
Everything is
thing, but it
vibration. Everything is
yeah,
mental.
yeah, that
Everything
one.
has
And
polarity. Yeah.
so when I got the book, so I was homeless at the time when I was going through that whole shift.
Wow.
And then when I finally like it drove me to like, be peaceful and not go into that stressful mode. And then when I did that, I found the place like downtown Minneapolis.
Wow.
It actually was the exact place that like my homie lived in like 5 years ago back in the day when we were like in high school. So it was
Wow.
like I was literally staying in like the same house of like when I was going back at teenagers, chilling, smoking, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was a cool ass house with the same roommate, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Wow.
But I found the book there. Like the people had left the book there, and it was the Emerald Tablet,
What?
and it was
They
crazy.
just happened to leave
Yeah,
it there?
I swear
That's
to God,
crazy. That's awesome.
it was it was insane, yo. I
Wow.
was like, what is this?
Like, why?
Yeah, because you would see these like okay, those old those Latin pictures or the the symbols that you'll see in like the emerald tablets and
Yeah.
or those type of books where it's like alchemy and it'll show
Yeah.
like the sun and all those different type of things. So I would see those images, and then when I seen this book, I was like, holy shit, this is what I'm finna get deep into this.
Yeah.
But I couldn't read it. Like it was like so deep that I had to read two other books just to like read
Wow.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
to like get a good introduction.
You're a
So
good
that was
student
basic.
then. Good job.
Hey, I did that due diligence because like
Yeah.
because what it really was this low point in life. It really drove me to understand why I was going through this and
Yeah.
why and how can I change my life. And I kind of was a always a thoughtful person, and I always understood like the power of thoughts. And then like when I read that your emotions are like the power to your thoughts because
Yeah.
you can think about something, but the way that your attitude is applied towards that thought is your resonance and your vibration. So I, when I learned that, I was like, okay, well, I have to go back and think about all my past experiences and try to resave that data as
Nice.
something more positive. So I was going through these things, and how I did it was when I would experience phenomena, like when I seen something happen, and then I would like when I seen somebody with some shoes, and I was like, man, fuck those shoes. Like get
Yeah.
jealous or have that type of thing.
Right.
I was like, well, damn, wait, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Damn. Well, I guess I'm not, that fashionable. So I always hate on other people that are fashionable. Maybe I don't have to worry about things like that. And
Wow.
maybe I don't, So kind of started so I started doing that like a
Literally
lot.
reprogramming yourself. This is actually crucial. Anybody listening like should take note because this is actually what you have to do to go back and change like the way like you're describing your thoughts and your emotions and then your actions, which is going to change your entire world. But
Absolutely.
you can't just like do it. You have to like go back and literally reprogram these things.
Seriously, like it took a lot because you think like a set amount of thoughts a day, like 60,000 thoughts a day, they say.
Jesus.
And it's I know, right? Who counts them? But it's like you it, it's like I feel like you kind of like are a hologram,
Yeah.
and yourself is like reflected based upon all of your past thoughts that you saved and you thought for yourself. So all of these things that you sit here and believe for yourself are cast into the next version of yourself. And it's important to rethink those thoughts because they've only been solidified by old patterns of actions and old patterns of just uh looking away from people and just bad habits and things like that. So
This
I
is
started rewriting.
this is literally karma. This is what when people are talking about karma, they don't know if they understand that this is karma. It's literally just like, oh, you thought and did this. Well, this is the response to that. This is how the universe responds to that, and this is what you get from that. Like it's manifestation at its like core is just karma, and it's this exact process. Your thoughts, your emotions, your actions are all connected together. And when you're saying like they're gonna like follow through and you're going to keep on that if that's how you've programmed yourself, like that's also true when you die. So if you die this way, like you're going to go into the next life with that shit too. So it's like you want to do what you did and like think about it and be
Yeah,
intentional about it.
yeah, absolutely. Your attention is your intention
Yes.
all the time. And if your attention, if you see and your attention is always something negative, then it's your intention that you're seeing something negative. You can see the beauty in life if you really want to, and all that your perception is based off of your dang, how does the formula go? Your perspective is based off your thoughts, I want to say, or your beliefs forms your perception,
Yes.
right? So your beliefs, the things that you have saved in your mind forms your perception, and then your perception forms your thoughts
Yes.
that you because what you see, then your thoughts come in, and then your thoughts form your emotions,
Yes.
and then through that I believe your actions then come, that then you start acting, and then it's like, okay, you don't why did I just do that action, or you can think back, or why do I feel like that, or you can go back and say, why did I think that? Like you can go back in these different steps
Yes.
and ask why, which is an important question. Why is the symbol that would always pop up,
Yeah.
and it gets you deeper. And through this reprogramming and through understanding that your attitude and your emotions is the resonance that you save the data as, once you go back, you go and rewrite that attitude that you felt 12 years ago that you experienced. You know what I mean? You rewrite that attitude that you had saved, that bad encounter with your girlfriend, that, woo the woo. So um it's all about the energy. And I started
Yeah.
talking, I started helping people People talked to me for hours. I ended up lecturing people, and people came back. That's how I knew this shit was
That's
real. I was like,
awesome.
damn, they want more.
Yeah. That's so cool. So you do, and this is also the other key is like you're gonna do this for yourself and help yourself. You're automatically gonna be helping others, whether it's like you did and like literally like directly helping others apply it, or whether it's just in the fact that you're of a cleaner, more pure, sort of better, higher energy, and you're just bringing that with you as you go, and that's gonna affect other people. They're gonna be like, "Huh, I like this energy. I like being around this. Like, what is this? How do I get more of that for myself or whatever?" I
Right.
love it.
And I
It's
always wanted to be a teacher. That's why that came
yeah,
so natural. I was like, shit, I'm not gonna teach fake shit, but when I found the Emerald Tablet and the seven universal laws, I was like, well shit, I can teach that.
yeah.
And I can, lecture on that all day because it's so beautiful. And you learn more by looking at other people's laws of attraction and how other people go through their things, and they will sit there and tell you. And the crazy thing is they won't understand their own law of attraction. That's the crazy. You can learn more from their experience before they even know. Then
Yeah.
you turn around and help them. It's like, damn, this
Well,
is so powerful.
okay, so this is how we know you're a real teacher is you're teaching people without, society telling you have this title of teacher that you've achieved or whatever. You're like just being a teacher, but then you're also a real teacher would be consistently learning from every single person ever. Period. Like
Period.
that's,
Till you die. Yep.
so I
It
love that.
never
That's awesome.
stopped.
It's a beautiful thing. So then, and
Man.
you wanted to be a teacher, but you were like, this bullshit is fucked up. We're just indoctrinating kids, and why would I want to be a part of that? So you left that behind and just
Yeah, that
started.
was my high school. That was my high school dream, was to be a teacher, to go to college. But I seen what they went through. I knew
Yeah,
about Common Core, I knew
yeah,
about what I learned in school. Like I was smart. I went through school so fast, but I knew that they weren't teaching me bullshit. And then I knew that if I went to college, I would get in so much debt. So I only went there one semester and took the loan money and went to Job Corps
yeah.
and got like, office and administration or whatever. But with school, like I really lost my faith with like I just seen how things were operating. Like the teachers weren't getting paid well, worried about losing their job for things that they said. Fortunately, at my school, it was like pretty old school, but I only had like 200 people in the school
Wow,
and 25 seniors. My senior class was only like 25 people that
wow,
graduated.
that's tiny.
And but the teachers there, I know, so small, but it was like North High School, like the community high school of the North Minneapolis. And the teachers there were so quality. Like they were
That's
there
right.
25 years. They were baby boomers. Shout out to the baby boomers.
Yeah,
I
what?
know us millennials. I know us millennials like to talk shit about the baby boomers, but Crow made
So
me
fucked up.
appreciate them a little bit more.
Yeah.
But they no, the quality teachers, they really stuck a message, and they really had a way of teaching that really stuck with me, and it was a charismatic effect. And it wasn't nothing about teaching, because there's
No.
teachers that you'll run into that you can run all over, and you could.
Yeah.
I've had teachers where I would roll up weed in her classroom.
Yeah.
Like I knew she wasn't gonna do anything. Like that's how bad things got. But there were teachers that you would sit down and respect and really soak up the information from, and those were the teachers that imbued like that. Like they really knew what they were talking about, and they engulfed the room with the essence of, I can really put you on and really teach you and really love in a love way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like really, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, because they actually care about you and your mind and your development, and they actually want you to come out the other side better in some way or more, but able to be equipped to deal with whatever the future is going to bring. And then there's other teachers who just do it for a job, I guess, even though it pays shit. I don't really understand those ones. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, those teachers probably also like taught you how to think, right, and how to like
Hmm.
more than anything else, I would hope. um, because yeah, I think the best teachers do that over like teaching a subject. And like you pointed out, most of the ways we teach subjects and most of the shit that we include in the subjects and the shit we disclude from the subjects is very telling and indoctrinating, and it's a sad thing to be a part of. So yeah, I'm glad that
Sad.
you avoided that and found something where you are still teaching, lots of people, but not in this very
Hmm.
depressing, controlled way. That's cool.
No, absolutely. Only thing I got to worry about now is censorship, right?
Right.
Goddamn Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook,
No,
YouTube.
and
Dude, have you heard about this shit where they're like, and I fucking don't care about politics. We all know, like, left, right, doesn't matter, whatever. It's all a game, but it's just fucking infuriating that, like, Trump supposedly, his team came out with this, like, ad campaign, and there's a red triangle, I guess, in it. And people are like, oh, that's a hate symbol. That's what the Nazis used in concentration camps to, like, delineate a certain group or whatever. I don't even know.
yeah,
So they canceled the ad campaign, and then people are pointing out, like, okay, well, wasn't it a pink triangle anyway? But also, red triangles are just red triangles sometimes, and the ADL even doesn't list the red triangle as a hate symbol or anything. And
right.
Facebook itself has red triangles emojis that you can use, and apparently Antifa uses red triangles. So those red triangles are all okay. This red triangle is racist, and now it's like, here's one more thing that people are gonna be able to scream about and divide over. Like, no, Trump used fucking Nazi symbology. Like, oh god, okay, here we go.
It's crazy. These people in their theatrics, I mean, damn. One hand can do something bad, but if it has a gold watch on it, it's nice. But if this man does it and it's orange, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
That's social engineering right there.
right there.
I've heard him say some peculiar things that I was surprised the president will say, in the same breath of, seeming as a racist as well. So there's Trump is interesting day
It's
by day,
interesting.
things unfold with him.
He's like
And
the chaos agent, right? Like, I never know what's
exactly.
gonna fucking happen with this guy.
Look, that's what they wanted too when they elected him at first. They was like, yeah, we need somebody when this shit hits the fan to get them riled up,
Yeah.
keep them entertained, because we gonna cut off their sports and shit. So we needed somebody to keep them entertained and shit.
Dude, I don't even know what the fucking whole goal is about this. I mean, I understand the whole goal as I perceive it, but I don't know if they're actually, like, going into this sort of end game and this is the lead up to the end game or whatever, or if they're just kind of doing the same shit they always do where they pull some shit and it seems really horrible and then it kind of goes back to normal afterwards, or like, I can't figure this shit out.
Right, right. That is the dilemma right now. I hope it's the second one though. I hope that we go back to what we can find as normal before. Hopefully, not too much AI comes into play, but all this selfless shit and selfless driving stuff and contactless driving.
Yeah.
Like, what if you set my stuff outside on the floor when it's raining? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, just hand me my fucking shit, Domino's. Like, it's getting crazy right now. But
Yeah.
I find it interesting that these Uber drivers, this is funny because like quick money get money, but we know fast money always goes to the quickest, right? So all these Uber drivers and Lyft drivers thinks they're making a killing, but as soon as self-driving cars come in, you guys were just doing all the data for the
True.
self-driving cars, and it's just funny, because they're the ones right now in the industry that think they're winning. Oh, DoorDash has gone up, and Uber and this and that. His business has been cool, and it's not the real case.
Yeah, it's hard to look that far out for people. They're like, we need money to pay rent tomorrow, so who cares if there's a robot takeover in 4 years or whatever.
Right.
And it's hard not to.
I
That's
don't even.
exactly where they wanted us, right? That's why they've kept us all
Mhm.
enslaved and impoverished for what? I don't know, centuries? More? Who knows? A
Yeah,
while.
long, long time. Leave it to Crow. He said it's been like a century long, inching along with the germ theory. Maybe had us afraid of germs for a long time. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Yeah.
found it funny. Germs and German was like the same word, kind of. They had us feeling like germs were invading and this, and that. And that's the same World War II thing and shit. And
Yeah,
that's
and they
when germ
were
theory kind of.
yeah, dude, and they were harkening back to it too because they kept saying this was like D-Day or fucking storming Normandy or like I don't even remember what shit they were bringing up or like Pearl Harbor and all this shit. I'm like, how is this virus
Right.
like Pearl Harbor? Like what the fuck? Like just
I swear to God.
programming. That's programming. Right? You put in the input and then people like output however you want it. But shit, I lost my line of thought. I was gonna go back to uh, the programming us. Oh yes, okay. So like, how long we're talking about? If they've been programming and they've had these plans in for maybe centuries, and it seems so, right? Or maybe even thousands of years. And this idea of that they sort of took that black label, that word, and took the positive away from the Naga association and made it into this like grr angry word, you know, and all of that. That's hundreds and hundreds of years of programming, right? Just to take some energy out of like a concept or a word. And it makes me think of, you know, I've had this idea for a while too, that there might be something, I think in any indigenous community there's something really powerful, right? That you're closer to source, or you're closer to like the earth, or you know, you're closer to like connection with yourself and others around you, community. All of these sorts of things are much more powerful than what we have going on, and it seems like they're the thing that they, whatever they is like attacking the most directly, you know. And so I have this idea too, that with the you know, Black community or African American community specifically, that there is something in hip hop that was specifically attacked because of the power of it, and then maybe that connects with this, you know, taking away the power of the word Naga, and whatever associations with that it might have, and that this is like a multifaceted attack. Because I feel like, and we talked about it on the Mark Devlin show too, where it just felt like hip hop was this very powerful energy, you know, at first, and like it was meant to build community and connect, you know, knowledge and information, and keep people, you know, informed and like aware and together. And then it was like, no, let's fuck that up, and let's throw in like sex, drugs, and fucking whatever, and Satanism, or you know, whatever we can, and just like rip that apart. And I just feel like there's something more targeted about this, that's intentionally taking away a sort of connection to a, like a rooted like power that, you know, each people sort of
Well,
has.
well, you definitely hit it on a mark. I mean, it's crazy because that's kind of where I was gonna go with it.
Oh
Like
yeah.
with hip hop, you know, it what does it do? It just advertise guns and drugs, and they say the N word every other sentence, and that kind of just portrays black people as just niggas that just sell drugs and bang guns.
Yeah.
And what that does is further, like you say, degrades the word nigga, and then it kind of makes attributes that and supports the other people's arguments and this and that.
Yeah.
But what it also does, it also supports gang culture.
Yeah.
And why that's important is because gang culture, just like as you were saying before, which was something that started to be from like supporting the communities and
Yeah.
like the Crips getting together and you know helping the community out, and like through the Black Party, through the Black Panther
Black
Party,
Panthers. Yeah.
right? So it's funny. This is a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
another deep little rabbit hole that we're gonna go down. Um, Huey P. Huey P. Newton
Yeah.
from the Black Panther Party was instrumental in helping the Crips get their like their startup and
I had
their
no idea. I knew that like
yeah.
he was, you know, awesome, badass, and like the Black Panthers were actually like feeding their community and creating like, you know, connections and helping people. But I had no idea there was a connection to the Crips.
Yeah, it's a little crazy thing because it's like I don't know if it happened right after he died or right just before he died, but what it was the Crips came out of the Black Panther Party because it I want to say the BPP was in California
Yeah.
or in like LA,
Yeah.
and Crips were founded in LA or South Central
True.
LA or
Okay.
something like that. So around this time, around that same time, right, Huey P. Newton gets out of prison. You know, he starts getting involved with the Black Panther Party, and then so now the Crips, right? So I got a I got a whole thing. Huey P. Newton was a Phi Beta Sigma,
Really.
right, which is a
Secret.
fraternity.
Right.
It's a college fraternity. Now, hold, damn, I don't know if I should precurse. I'll precurse it later. But basically, Huey P. Newton being a which is a Pi Beta Sigma, which is the blue fraternity. They have a symbol which is like this, which is base. I don't know.
Oh
Let me get
wow.
my head out of the way.
Which
It's
is
like a
basically
C,
Crips. Now we're gang members.
right? Now we're gang members, right? And Crips, obviously, wear the same blue as the Pi Sigma Pies
Wow.
or the Pi Beta Sigmas, and they also, like I just said, Huey P. Newton was instrumental in helping them get their startup.
So you think this is
So
a fucking move by the elites?
Oh yeah, CIA got
Wow,
their hand written all over that.
dude.
This is like right out of prison. Got the same little story. I mean, I'm sure the numbers add up too. People should look
Yeah.
up Bro Sanchez. Bro Sanchez has a video on this. It's 100% proof that gangs were created by the CIA,
Like
and he kind of dives.
I guess like I kind of like knew that or guessed that, but I didn't. I've never heard this like specific of a series of connections. But I also am sad to think that Huey P is a dickhole.
Well, shit, a lot of our black leaders are, unfortunately.
True.
That and it gets kind of deeper too because we can look at the Bloods. People say that's not enough. That's get off Huey P's nuts. You know what I mean? But okay, we got the Kappas, the Kappa fraternity, the black fraternity. This is another black fraternity in colleges, which we have a Divine Nine organization of historical black colleges, right?
I
And
didn't
guess
know
what it's
that.
called?
What?
It's called it's called the the Pan Hellenic Council.
Wow.
I can't make this fucking shit up. And they're all Greek fraternities.
Wow.
But these are like in prestigious colleges, black colleges, right? So we're supposed so this is the hypocrisy that we're in now. These are the same shit. This goes back to calling ourselves black, calling
Yeah.
ourselves African American, going to these historically black colleges and getting Greek letter fraternities. Fucking Kappa Alpha, those are Greek letters, right?
Yeah.
Like okay, so Kappa, so the Kappas, right? So the Kappas are Bloods, or the Kappas are the red fraternity, and the blood gang is red, and the
Yeah.
Kappa's symbol is a
Shut
B.
up. What?
I swear, I swear, you guys could
I
look that
believe you.
up
That's
too.
crazy.
And also like little icing on the cake, Kappa, what you have capillaries in your right there you
Sorry.
go. No, let them
I
know.
had to.
No, we all have capillaries in our bodies, and what do? They have blood in them.
Red.
So kappa and blood and kappas are all it all ties together. So we can see how these gangs, which are these national gangs because they stretch across the nation,
Yeah.
all have ties to Greek letter fraternities that are tied to the Pan Hellenic Council, which of course is tied to Pan and Helen and all of that,
Jesus.
and these are also where the Pan Africanists come. You know what I mean? Like there's a Pan African movement, which is the same African American movement that I'm telling you about, but there's still no country in Africa that has said these are my black people, bring them
Yeah.
back. And this is so it's a whole freaking deep thing, and it gets back to like you said, like where how deep does it go? And yes, hip hop does play a huge part in it because it gets them involved in gangs, and you can see all the gangs, all their symbols are Masonic symbols.
Yeah.
They're it gets all crazy. So all of them are controlled. The CIA gives them the drugs. We know Operation Snowfall. We know these things. We got Freeman Fly to thank for that and
Yeah.
covering a lot of these things. And it just gets deep when you tie everything together and you remove yourself from the culture that they want you to attribute yourself to.
Yeah. That's insane. I can see why people have a hard time, thinking this all through. Because it's a lot. I mean, like if you've never questioned any of this shit, and then you're like,
Yeah,
holy, wait, what the fuck? You're like, this person is
crazy.
crazy. But you're like, no, it's like there's literally like a paper trail and you can find. And I mean, how can you even deny that those symbols and colors are the same and the people who came out of those exact, fraternities are starting these
I swear.
organizations? But it's like,
I
it's so multifaceted too, because you're like, first you had to destroy the family to make anybody want to join a gang. If you have a strong family, you don't need anybody else to help take care of you, But when your family's falling apart and you're like already, living in poverty or facing whatever severe sort of situations in life, it's like this is something that you feel like you need, and so you go find this community and they'll take you in and they'll have your fucking back for like no matter what. And it's like this is secure feeling now, like you want this is what humans want. So it's like first make the problem right and then provide this solution, and then that solution like further feeds your other things that you want, which is just the destruction of a otherwise powerful group of people.
mm-hmm.
That's
Absolutely well said.
horrifying.
Absolutely. It's really crazy. Well said.
I always keep coming
And people
back to this idea of like how good they are at what they do. you know? Like, that's fucked up. That's a fucked up game to have thought of all of that and put it in motion and pulled it off.
Only by the long game could it have occurred, because wow, like look where we're at. Like people get mad at me for speaking out on these things, and I don't even feel like they're qualified enough to even talk to me.
Yeah.
But I give them the time because they are my people that need to are the main ones that need to wake up, are the main ones commenting and mad. So I'm like, well, you need to hear the message and you need to get the whole thing, because you can't unsee this and you can't unhear this at the end of the day. And that's what I bank on,
Yeah.
because I know the power of the subconscious mind, and I know that that's what they bank on too.
That's a good point.
So that's
You're,
people people got to do some research, man. I mean, I'm trying to spread love.
yes.
It just got to come out of chaos, I guess, out of hate, or out of dissolving all of that fake love.
Yeah. I love it. You're doing a better job than me, I think, at actually like reaching people who aren't already thinking about things. So good job. I hope to get better and better at it, but maybe that chaos that is being created and the extreme ends of polarity are being like divided, like we're talking about, and that snap back, maybe we can reharness that and direct it ourselves instead of letting them harvest it and direct it for their sick ass means.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve. I just got a super chat from Steve Mercer, who's an awesome friend of the show, and that was really nice to see. I haven't otherwise looked at the chat at all this whole time because I've been so engaged in what we're talking about, which is awesome. We
Steve
never.
Mercer.
I
He
really.
sounds familiar. He did a show with Freeman, right?
He is
Or no, that's
Freeman's.
Freeman's producer.
Yeah, producer Steve.
Yeah, shout out to producer Steve, man.
Yes.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know what I was gonna say. Oh, we never got into really what you do with the community work that you do. If you want to talk about that at all, I think it's an awesome thing to give your time to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I started last year. Around this time, I started getting involved with an organization called Say Tool, which is based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which focuses on um, labor laws and wage theft and things like that. Because what happens is when you work for companies, and like mostly in restaurants or sometimes even nurses and CNAs, they have to work through their breaks, and companies still take the check from them,
Hmm.
or still take the money off their check. So that's actually, we passed a law and that's illegal. And
Good.
we've actually had settlements where people have gotten back pay and gotten reimbursed for all the money after the law got passed, of course, to get reimbursed from that. So we've I've been educating people on that. I'm on the board of that organization actually, and we also have an all black group, which we focus on um, creating black leaders in the community,
Right.
like myself, that are strong-willed and competent enough to understand social injustice and being able to explain it in an in-depth way, whether it's about GMOs or about the historical things that have happened in our history, or whether it's about the government deception that we're all are going through. And we're creating black leaders. We're throwing an event tomorrow, actually,
For
in
Juneteenth.
the same Juneteenth, tomorrow, June
Yeah.
19th. It's actually going to be in the space where it's going to be right on the same block where the George Floyd incident happened at, which is going to be interesting. So
Yeah.
gonna be a lot of action there. I don't know if we're going live or not, but so yeah, just diving deep with the community has been great, and we've built a great coalition with many organizations across the Twin Cities, like
So cool.
Black Visions Collective and a lot of other groups and labor forces, and even unions as well. So that's the kind of community work I've been getting into this past year. This has all been
So
a year.
that's a lot. You're going places. It's awesome to see and to hear about and to watch. And I really love that you specifically are in those sorts of groups, because I think those groups traditionally, historically, at least in my when I was doing activist work in a similar sort of vein and with similar sorts of communities, like that shit really got divisive and torn apart really easily. And so it's nice to hear that you're having success, finding unity amongst many of the organizations in your area, because that's a really hopeful thing for me to hear about. But I also wonder if you have noticed yet, hopefully never, any sort of attempts at infiltration, or do you notice that there are like people show up that sort of seem to be possible plants or whatever?
Well, that's interesting.
Because that's what I saw a lot of. I was like, oh, we're making all this
Well,
progress. Oh, who's this person? Oh, shit's falling apart now. Like, what the fuck?
damn. Well, luckily, I mean, I've I'm just at a year, so I haven't seen that yet. But I am familiar with a lot of like how organizations do have agendas, things like Black Lives Matter and things like that. I'm not cool with, but
Yeah.
we've even kind of dismantled them in our city, kind of in a way,
Really?
like changed their name or whatever. Like
Oh wow.
they went from Black Lives Matter to Black Visions Collective because there has been I've heard of organizations that have had just people mess it up before I
Yep.
even got into the game actually
Good.
in my neighborhood. I was like, why don't we have one on the north side instead of that organization? One of the leaders, something, something with, messing with kids, things like
Oh,
that, So it's like, it's awful that shit like that happens. So fortunately, we're at such a smaller space and we're at such a virgin time that we haven't encountered that. But I will be on the lookout.
yeah.
Sorry to be long.
No, it's good. I love that you're aware of it and looking out for it. And I love that. How did the Black Lives Matter changing their name to Black Visions Collective come about? It sounds like a way cooler name anyway. I like the
I,
energy of it.
I know, right?
It's good.
I can't proffer a good explanation
Okay,
on that.
but it
I wish I
happened.
could be. It happened. Black Lives Matter isn't here. They were only here when this shit that just happened.
They
But
rolled in for like the staging and the the cameras, and then they rolled out. Kinda.
that is how I feel. That is how I feel. And that's truly coming from a person that's from the Twin Cities. You know what I mean?
You're
Like
like literally
we don't
involved
have
with the
Black Lives.
community and are aware of what's going on.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we don't have Black Lives Matter here. Like I can say that much, but I just don't know why. You know what I mean? And for them to be here when that shit was going down, I was like, well, the motherfuckers aren't usually here.
That's interesting. Oh, well, that's yeah. That's really cool to hear from somebody who's actually involved and understands what's happening because that's a good piece of information. And I know that video was going around of the guy back from 2016, and he was talking about how he left Black Lives Matter because he realized all the infiltration and all the sort of shady shit that was going on. And I was like proud of him for not only leaving when you notice that shit, that it's being controlled and that you can't reclaim it, and that you can't bring it back and make it something good, to leave, but also to then call it out because we need people who are in it, in that community. If I call it out, it's very easy for people to dismiss it. But if someone who's actually there and involved calls it out, then it's harder. And people have to then at least hopefully think and say like, I wonder if this is all just a fucking horse and pony show then, or whatever.
Right. Makes people consider. That's why I like doing what I'm
Oh,
doing because it gives me that title. You know what I mean? Like I got rank out here so that people take what I say seriously. But I also don't go too hard on them. That's the thing. I don't shove. Like I know a lot of stuff, but I know when to hold my tongue, you know what I
yes.
mean? And I don't being in an organization, I know some of the views I don't always align with what I know. But I know in the long term and with patience, I know that at least my messages get, across the way they need to at the end of the day. That's a true magician,
That
really.
is, yes, that's true power. That's why I was like pretty good at that when I was a teacher, but I'm not so good at that on like Facebook.
Oh no, this
Like,
has to be an organization. When I'm out like doing some activist stuff, like
yeah,
at meetings and trainings and stuff, that's when it comes in.
that's
But
that's
like on,
maturity. That's maturity. That's like
yeah,
being able to be a like. I don't want to use the word professional because it has a whole bunch of shitty connotations, but I just being an adult. You're being an adult, but it's like no one else is, so it's even more powerful. Like,
yeah.
extra magic in those actions there. I want to say thank you to Red Fox, who also did a super chat. Thank you so much, Red Fox. Red Fox said it's the first stream I've seen from you both. So Red Fox is a fan of yours, I'm assuming, as well.
Hey, what's up, Red Fox? Shout out to Red Fox for the last unintended consequences show.
Awesome.
I remember I heard that. Shout out to the great Baldini.
Yeah, he should come back on soon, too, on Rogue Ways. So I think we hit on a lot of the things we wanted to talk about, but I wanted to ask you, in this path you've been traveling, because, like a lot of people, it's like you start out sort of like, I'm sure somehow in your life you had things kind of pushing you towards awakening, but you kind of start out as like almost like a normie or whatever, and at some point you sort of awaken and be like, what the fuck is going on? And so what was like the hardest part about this journey for you, do you think?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I credit my awakening to like 2012. Like, I swear to God, it was like a literal shift.
Wow.
Like, one day, like me and my roommates were all eating Burger King every day, and the next day we started like going to co-ops and making our own soaps and listening. This one I was first experiencing Alex Jones, you know.
Wow.
So it just happened overnight. But like when I first like this is when I first dove deep into GMOs, and it kind of literally like blew my mind because I was doing like I made that shift and then I started researching GMOs and I was like, well, damn, that's why I made that shift. But like, why did that happen? So I kind of isolated myself because like after I learned that the world wasn't what it seemed, it was like, damn, what's
Yeah.
going on? And like
Like
a whole
withdraw.
thing, yeah, I literally withdrew and I went through like a something happened like with my roommates and we fought and then like that's when I became homeless and stuff. But it was like, damn, like then that's when like I went through that whole shift and I tried to keep my book or my I moved in with like my coworkers and then they gave me that book, The Tao of Pooh.
Yeah.
So like the hardest part was like going through this whole shift while trying to maintain
Life.
what because yeah, life because I was like going through a daze and like life was hitting me hard as fuck. But I was like, damn, but wait, what the hell is going on here? And that kind of kept me like coasting through and being what's important because it was hard. I didn't realize what it was doing because like everybody like life has swings. Like there's a pendulum, like it's the
Yes.
law of rhythm. So life has swings. I use the moon to count my rhythm. You know, the
Nice.
moon gets big, that's a positive swing. Moon gets small, that's a negative swing.
Yeah.
But life has swings. So when you're going on a negative swing, it's important to save your place at the happiest memory that you've had in that last 2 weeks or that
Mm.
positive swing because you know that you're going on that positive swing. So that's what I did. That's what like theoretically I was doing when I was in that daze
Yeah.
that whole time. And I was like life, I was going through that bad swing.
Yeah.
And then as after I went after that positive swing, because one the importance of doing that is because the rhythm of it. Because if you let that swing take you down, then that swing back up is going to be lesser because now you're
Yeah.
your
Your
swinging
momentum
is lower
is
now.
right.
Yeah, so you have to maintain your pace on that timeline, being positive, being a positive number. Because once you let that stuff bring you down to a negative number, your rhythm and your swing is not as great.
Mm.
So doing that, I really gained like so much, like like spiritually was something that was supposed to take me down, like literally down. It literally took me up, and it was like
Yeah.
that was probably like the hardest. It was hard because I didn't know what the fuck I was gonna do and eat and this and that, but it was like it was so fruitful.
Wow. What a powerful lesson to learn, like embodying the Kybalion in your actual life, lived experiences, like as you're going through it, being aware of that and intentionally navigating it. That's a magician status right there.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. It took a long time to recognize that. It took some self-reflecting. You don't know that you're doing it at the same time, but when you do know about it, you start doing it, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
do it. You know,
It's the
crazy.
same. It reminds me too of the sort of alchemical allegory for it too, where it's like, well, you're gonna fucking drop down into the fire right now, and shit's gonna burn away, and it's gonna be fucked up, and you're gonna lose a ton of shit. But actually, this is rad because you're gonna come out the other side like more crystallized and pure as like what you really are. Every time you go through that process, more and more and more purified, and so it's like sucks. It's not fun. It's like the worst thing that can happen. It feels like, but again, like it's the best outcome that you could ever, ask for at the end.
Yeah, and it's so funny. If I may add one more thing,
Go
it's
for it.
like, um, they're always like, well, why are truthers always such assholes? Right? It's like, why are you guys so mean? And it's like, okay, let's talk about it alchemically for a minute. The first stage is calcination, the burning of the dross. And when you burn things, the first thing you think of, like, you're burning the ego.
Yeah.
This is such a violent process that you think that the ego is going to be gone just then. But what happens is, when you go through this first stage of calcination, which I believe is probably the longest that we all go through in our lives is just the burning and the continuous of burning of it.
Yeah.
But what we notice is our ego, it obviously becomes lesser, but what becomes of the lesser is it's more concentrated,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, damn, yeah, all the egos, the mass of the ego is gone. Like, yeah, I don't care about fashion, I don't care about this and that no more. But is of my ego that is there is concentrated.
Yeah.
So now that's what you see when these truthers are, so arrogant and so cocky and so, so mean. It's like, well, their ego is concentrated, and that's kind of like, a side effect probably of becoming woke. But it's crazy when you look at these alchemical steps, step by step, and you recognize them and you see it. Well, whether it's in spagyrics or whether it's just in life.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's awesome. And the more you're aware of it, the more you can sort of direct it and be intentional. And like you were saying, like I like that way you phrase that too. Like hold on to that sort of best, most recent, happiest like place or memory or experience or whatever, and like just hold that as you're like swinging, like kind of to keep your momentum going back to the other side. That's a cool analogy to think of. And so what? So that was sort of the exploration of like the darkest and worst parts of the path, but what have been sort of the best parts of the path and the coolest things that have come out of your travels through life?
That's a good question too. um I just manifested like this recent job that I manifested, and I always manifest like these crazy jobs. Like I was a game tester for Activision, worked on Call of Duty,
Dude.
this and that. I
That's
mean, I
fun.
fucking loved it. I know. And I mean, crazy jobs. And like I got into things where I felt like I was foreseeing things and I was like reading people's minds. I've got to that point, which was kind of like things like, oh, I knew my boss was, I would set up ways because when you get into this shit, you'll set up ways for things to happen for you. And it was crazy. So I set up a way for me to get my boss's car, for me to get my boss's car, so I could work these two jobs at Activision and fucking his his thing. You know what I mean? I totally played it. It was totally nice.
That's
But
awesome.
I, yeah, I just did that in like another job. The job that I just got was like I asked my friend if his job was hiring literally right before this shit hit. You know what I mean? And it
Wow.
was crazy because I got hired like a week before Corona hit, and like if
Wow.
I would have like waited, like I wouldn't have got the job probably because
No.
hiring would have got closed down or whatever. But what's cool about it was because I don't have a car right now, and this job is in Eden Prairie, which is like 12, 15 miles from my house or whatever. And I stay in the inner city. This is like a nice ass suburb,
Yeah.
right? So normal buses don't even get out there or
No.
whatever. So, but you know what I mean? I sit here, I go through the interview and everything, just confident that, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll just like the first check I get, I promise I'm gonna buy a beater and I'm gonna just buy a car and I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
I get the interview, I get accepted for the job, and um something tells me just look up the bus to like if there's a bus to get there. And I swear to God, there was literally one bus to get me there, and it got me there at 7:24. And there was one bus to pick me up, and it picks me up at fucking 4:20. And my hours are like 7:30 to 4. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So there was like literally one bus to get there,
Perfect.
one bus to pick me up, like literally perfect.
They probably just
And it's
added
like
that route like a week before and you didn't even know.
I swear to God, like it's just total craziness. Like the universe like aligned in that way, and that was one of the many ways where like it happened. And I've been working there since February, right?
Yeah.
Like it's June now, and this has been throughout this whole thing. The bus has been, even though they tried to shut it down. You know what I mean? I still fortunately held on to it, and that
Wow.
just goes to show that when there's a will, there's a way, and that's what I
Absolutely.
truly believe.
Oh,
And
hell
those are
yeah.
always the greatest things. Those are always the greatest stories to tell. When there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. I love it. There's so many people who are like willing to let themselves be completely destroyed by this sort of defeatist attitude, like, well, there's no bus, and like, why would I even try to get that job? I don't even have a car, and like, whatever. And if you're like, no, fuck it, like, if you want it, go for it, and like, it's gonna either work out for you, and that's gonna be the way that you should have gone, or it's not going to, but something else will come out of it anyway. And like, you just have to keep moving, man. Like, you gotta just keep going. And I love it. Someone asked, the other day in Eyes Open something about, what is deja vu? Is it our I forget how they phrase, like, is it our future self warning us of something or something like that? And I was saying, whatever I said, I don't know. And someone else was like, what do you call it then when you know exactly what people are thinking and doing and why they're doing it, or like the, you know, shit that's happening seems to be responding directly to your thoughts. I'm like, you call that like being on the fucking right path? Like, you
I
know, like
swear to God.
if it's working
I
out that
swear.
closely timed to like exactly what's going on, like that's the real meaning, I think, of synchronicity. It's like we say a lot of things are synchronicities because they're like very coincidental, and I think they are, but I think like the ultimate level of synchronicity is that level where you're like that in tune with exactly everything that's going on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Body language, people's body language. You don't do things that you don't think of. You know, that basic principle. Then you sit here and look at people, you study like, oh, they're moving in an anxious way. They may be thinking about, and then you're with them for a minute, you know that they have anxiety about, you know, their boyfriend or whatever they may be thinking about. And you can, if you know people, which is the whole thing about data collection and quantum computers and this and
Yeah.
that, you can predict people to a 90% certainty. So that's very, very powerful information. And we all know technology is made after the mind. So you can, it's just being psychic, basically. We
Yeah.
know you can be psychic if you have enough data on a person. And there's a whole list. I got a list of, this is a tangent, but like I got this list that I compiled of diseases and their stress related causes from A through Z. And I'm a firm believer of like, you know, every time you go to a doctor and they say something's wrong with you, it's stress related, right? The diseases
Yeah.
are stress related, but they don't tell you that there's hundreds of different, dozens of different types of stresses. So it goes on of the different type of stresses. Like if you're farsighted, meaning that you see far, that means you have a fear of the present, like you can't see close up, so you're like you have a fear of a present. Or if you're nearsighted, you can't see far away, that means you're unclear or have a fear of the future.
Wow.
And there's other things like, you know, headaches or self-criticism or um you know, there's different corollaries. I can tag you in the post, but like
Yeah,
there's
please
things
do.
that just make total sense. Diabetes, like for black people, diabetes is huge in a community, and what it says is no more sweetness left in life.
Mm.
You know, and what they do is offer a positive affirmation to help reverse the stressful thought pattern, which
Cool.
you know, is a result. And the last one that I always like to mention right now, especially with what we're going through, is the flu. And the flu, it says too much faith in statistics and something
Wow.
along those lines. And that's really
Yeah.
funny of what's going on right now because all these statistics that we're hearing and
Yeah.
this, and that. And it's a crazy list and it
Huh.
has a whole lot. I found it on a blog.
Oh,
But
dude. Please do take me. That sounds fascinating because I love that idea, and I've come to agree with what I wish I could remember the book, but there's a fat book that somebody put together that was like basically every ailment you could ever have, and then the corresponding sort of mental or emotional block that caused that physical malady or whatever. And I looked up all of my physical maladies, and they were all like, "Oh, this makes perfect sense for my neuroses or like, you know, the shit that's going on
mhm,
in my mental world." And it goes back to the Kabbalion and Hermeticism, and that everything is mental, right? Like we're literally creating it
absolutely.
all.
Absolutely. Might be the same list. I'm positive it is
It
probably.
probably is. It probably connects to that. Yeah. I don't know.
Mhm.
If it cites it, I'll be happy because I'd love to get that book again. But I'm everybody who knows me knows my memory is not so amazing. But
Mine's either.
I like to say that I learn all these details, you know, and like my brain is holding on to the concepts and the connections more than the details themselves, and that is actually a good thing because I'm allowed to then
Heck,
connect to more things, which I like. So grow the network, you know, not the network
that's
of
right.
electronics though,
That's right.
the network of
Don't
love.
stress on the details, guys. Don't. The message is clear. Don't stress on the details.
Yeah, I love that too. The over reliance on statistics or whatever, and like you said, they're like pushing all these statistics every single day, and I don't even think that many people are getting sick, but I bet the ones that are have a, you know, certain love and affinity for those statistics that get pumped out every day.
Absolutely.
Crazy feeling.
Germaphobe.
Yeah.
So much. I wish we can. There's a whole show and just going down the list and just talking about it. I mean, acne, self hate. There's like a few that I remember because it's like,
Wow.
you know, if you have lower back pain, your financial woes and concerns, but your upper back is like emotional support. It's like there's like a lot, and it's like it's so beautiful that the list was made, and because it helps being psychic. Like that's what made me think of it
Yeah.
about it because you're talking about being psychic, and that kind of was what helped me be psychic because I kind of wondered about. I used this list and I tried to debunk it. Right, I was talking about people and ask them about their pain and their things that they're going through, and the shit that I've heard, I could diagnose them right there with the list. I felt
Wow.
like, and I would too some of the time, and uh, I probably wasn't confident enough to get the message across, but now I can probably just really emphatically just go
Yeah.
in.
Give them that affirmation. Be like, say this to yourself however many times a day and get back to me in a week and let me know. You know?
I swear to
Free
God,
doctor. Free doctor.
I free.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, are there any loose threads or things going on in society or, ideas that we want to throw in the ring before we sort of start to wrap things up? I know it's like a
uh,
very large question.
I don't know. I don't have anything extra. I feel like we hit on a lot of good stuff.
I think we did too. It's been a really awesome show. Well, I want to make sure that people know where to find more of you and know about any upcoming plans that you have.
Yeah. You guys can add me on Facebook, Kordeezy Tom. I know that's very, very unprofessional in the truther movement, but please bear with me. Please bear with me. Podcast coming soon. Otherwise, you guys can catch me on Unattended Consequences this Sunday
Awesome.
at 11 a.m. I believe with the Great Baldini. You can follow him on YouTube. I believe it's the Great Baldini
I
on
think
YouTube or Unintended
I think
Consequences.
it's unintended consequences actually.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
you guys can subscribe to his channel. He's in our field. Conscious minds.
he's a
And
badass.
that's badass, guys. You guys can follow me there. That's just where I'm at.
That's awesome. And that's coming up this Sunday. And then I felt, weren't you on other shows recently or other shows upcoming? Or am I full of
Yeah,
shit?
I did a few shows on the Walk of Wisdom channel. Shout out to my guy Joseph. A few weeks back on social engineering,
Cool.
and I also appear on Bro Sanchez Live from time to time. He offers an open panel discussion where he has a platform of over 100,000 subscribers, and he like has an open platform style conversations with up to 10 people on Google Hangouts, and we kind of like dive deep on all type of different topics.
That sounds like
And
fun. Oops.
yeah, we it gets real. We do debates, we do discussions, we do all type of stuff. So you guys
Cool.
can that's where I got my comfortability and my practice
That's
at, and
rad.
that's where I come from. Shout out to Flat Power, man.
That's awesome. Well, what was I gonna say? Oh, you should come back on Rogue when you get your show going, and so you can promote it more and whatnot. It'll be fun.
Hell yeah. Hell
Cool.
yeah, if I could.
Well, what? Yeah, you have an open invitation. You're a friend of the show. So where? How? What? Sorry. What are your final words that you want to leave people with? Your final words of wisdom, or ideas that you want to leave people thinking about as we close down, or your last words here.
Well, I encourage everybody to just love thy neighbor, get to know other people, look at how much you can learn from other people from other cultures, and be open minded and go deeper and prepare yourself for whatever. This time they want you to be anxious. Don't go on their time. Act according to your time, your internal time, and be at peace with yourself. And that's all I could say.
That's some deep wisdom right there. In a very concise nutshell. I love it. Well, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing, and this has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to Kordeezy Tom. Kordeezy Tom, it is awesome to have you tonight, and thank you so much for coming.
Hey, peace, peace.
Awesome. Well, in the midst of the most thoughtless and immature mass moments I've ever seen, it is important that we resist the ultimate ease of giving in to mindlessness and quick accusation, shallow judgment and lack of observation, or deep travels only down the paths we have already trodden. Try something new in the way you communicate with others, reach across a divide and offer a humbled olive branch, and find those outside your zone and seek only to understand, not to change. I'll try it too, and we'll do this together. We have nothing to lose but our chains, and until you are free from the chains of the crowned and conquering children, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
fickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack, fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers with reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast upon the dapper. Bloody bibs and muddy kicks, feasting on amygdala. Iron fist, tyrant shit, APO will rip you up. The rhyme rainmaker, vein style backbreaker. Genghis Khan depleted uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard of me. No rusted tools used for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect a whole set, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad, dust to towels, no rags. Straight melt dash, dust to ash. Turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose, my service touches the sun's surface. And rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons. Cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet. Lungs depleted and can't breathe, can't believe it. Trying to seek it while trying to peep it. It's a secret. Now you're nobody. Label somebody. Trying to claim John Gotti. It's yours truly, God body.